Welcome back to Sunrise. Today we've got Mr. Ngilari joining us here. Former governor of Adamawa State. He's also a member of the APC Professionals Forum. Good morning and thank you for coming on the program today, sir.
Thank you, Chamberlain.
It's been a while since many heard you make some key statements out there in the polity, but you have been playing some roles behind the scenes for your party. But at the moment, lots of reactions came through about the recent court judgments, because you yourself played a key role in promoting the Muslim ticket of your party. Your party has just come off this court judgment. So what is your impression of how all of this has turned out so far?
Thank you for asking these questions, and good morning, viewers. In summary, I would say I've been listening throughout the judgment for close to 12 hours. My little knowledge and expertise in law, honestly, I would say the judges did justice to the case, to the issues canvassed by both parties, the petitioners and the respondents, and I give them a pat on the back. That is the way it should be. It's not good enough for people to completely try to put down our judges who cannot speak for themselves. In any contentious issue that goes before a court, there has to be a winner and a loser. But I also, having said that, I also concur with the petitioners that want to go further up to the Supreme Court. Because I believe that at the end of this whole exercise, our electoral jurisprudence will be so enriched, and there will be a lot of work for the National Assembly to do in terms of looking at the results of the decision of the Supreme Court, which is the final in this matter, and where we can do some picking, effect constitutional amendments where necessary. We will do so. For instance, look at the issue of FCT, 25% or not. I mean, these are matters that could be completely cured by constitutional amendment. So let's see how it goes, but for now I will say it was a wonderful decision.
Are you happy with the way things are turning out in the country so far? Because some of the policies the government has taken, lots of people are feeling the effects, economic effects of the policies, and now they're just wondering, oh dear, see where we are now. Who would have thought?
Well, you know, being the human beings we are, particularly in the setting of Nigeria, who didn't really suffer, I mean, who didn't work hard, suffer pain like other countries did to get their independence. So always there is this feeling that, you know, things must go smoothly as it has always been. But you know, President Ahmed Bola Tinubu is coming from the back of many decades of maladministration, if I will use that term, 20, 30 years. You don't expect a man come on board and within just, I mean, is that something you say, by magic wand you wave and everything will fall into sync? Doesn't work like that. But you can see the man, you can see that the man means well. He's taking decisions, painful decisions, that we will either face them now or we'll face them and they will be much more worse for us in the future. And so I would plead with Nigerians. All of us are paying the price, but that is a pain that will lead to gain eventually for all of us, you know. And you can begin to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Look at the trip to India, what we have gotten in terms of promises of investments, in terms of dollars that will come into this country. Who would have considered that would happen a few years ago? Look at even the stopover in Dubai. This issue of our relationship with UAE has been hanging for long. And suddenly, statesman, the politician that Bola Tinubu, our president, he stopped over and was able to broker peace and understanding. We must salute this man. And like our religious injunction, we say it is our duty to pray for our leaders.
If I could just talk a little bit about the leadership process, because I mean the courts either validate or invalidate, however all of that play out after INEC may have done whatever it is that they've done, because right now that seems to be a dominant narrative across board, that if we could get it right with the way we elect us, that leaders come through the political parties, and then INEC ensures that they do what they have to do right, and the courts don't, quote unquote, interfere or force certain people on us, as some people think, then, you know, the society might just be on a very good pedestal and trajectory to developing and then taking our pride of place in the Committee of Nations a lot firmer than we are today, as many think. But in terms of how leaders emerge from political parties, your party, for instance, would you say that you are satisfied with that process, or we need to do way better? Because, I mean, there were some pieces that were ascribed to you where you were talking about how certain persons wanted you to pay some money if you had to contest or make yourself available for those positions.
But let me restrict myself to the latter part of the comment as regards what happened to me or what I went through. I think there's always room to improve on our system, internal democracy. There must always be space for the best to emerge. I'm taking a cue from my own experience. I went into this election with the best of intentions to contribute my quota to the development of our country. And if you recall, towards the end of, I think, yeah, the last assembly proposed, I think, I forwarded a bill to Mr. President stating the amounts of monies that all categories of competitors who will go into elections and spend. I think, if I recall very well, senators were tagged to spending about $1 billion or thereabout. I can't remember completely now. House of Red member, there was a tab on what they could spend. And with that mindset, I went, of course. This is not the first time. I was a member of the House of Representatives in the 5th Assembly. So, and by divine providence, I became deputy governor, and I thought I could still offer something to my community. I said, of course, this is usual. You go around the state, you try your constituency. Where I come from is northern part of Adamawa Central District. You market yourself, I mean, by yourself or through your coordinators and agents, speak to them. And of course, the proposal that I said I would give them some takeoff of 100,000 naira was done in good faith, because you do not expect a man, where I come from, there is a border between us and Cameroon. You don't expect some of them to come to our senatorial headquarters, pay for themselves, come and lodge themselves, and give you votes. Who are you? Oh, I did that in good faith, but as it turned out, it was misinterpreted. But I opted out. I wish there is a way that these things can be more fine-tuned.
So you couldn't contest for the position you want because you couldn't afford to offer the kind of money they were asking.
They were asking. It was not the party, but surprisingly...
But they are members of the party.
No.
Those people are members of the party, aren't they?
No, I mean, yes, they are members of the party, delegates, but, you know, but the point I'm saying is that it's not the leadership of the party that would determine who would emerge. You go and canvass, you campaign among the delegates. I think there could be a way that this thing can be fine-tuned. And that is why I say there's always room for improvement. That is why between this election and the next one, with the caliber of...
But what that means is that
yeah.
If young people want to come in to contest elections,
yes,
and they don't have the kind of billions that politicians spend, it means what? Their chances will be very limited. Some of them may not even smell it.
Unfortunately, with all due respect, as it is now, I don't know how you will eliminate the money factor. But people are increasingly becoming, bold, and they now begin to see, even the children or the ordinary man begin to see this kind of routine will get us nowhere. Because those we elect simply disappear. We don't see them until another cycle of election comes. So I see that the next cycle of elections will be much more different. Because, it's no longer enough to come and say, all right, we give you palliative, we buy you this and buy you that. After being elected, you disappear. And people are now beginning to say, well, our children too must have a better future.
Mr. Ngilari, you said something earlier about when Chairman asked you about the government policies and how they're impacting the people. You said we're all suffering the impact of these government policies. And now you're talking about money politics. There are those who argue, or the argument out there is that, yes, the policies are there, but we're not seeing the politicians who are in government now actually suffering the impact of this policy as we see. Tied to this matter of moving money from politics, how do you think it can work? How do we end corruption? Because all of this is what people will term as corruption. How do we end corruption in our police?
Yeah, before taking on the main thrust of your question, I think I need to clarify the point. I didn't say government policies in the sense of deliberate government policies to inflict pain. Now look, even the contestants, the candidates who went into these elections, all agreed we will remove fuel subsidy, for example. So it is not something that was limited to APC or our candidate. They all agreed, and what magic one has anybody that will overnight translate and give and strengthen the value of our currency, other than through productivity, increased productivity in the economy. This is what Mr. President has done. We must go back to the beginnings and see how we can invest resources into agriculture. And now here, I would say, in addition to investing resources into agriculture, I think states at all levels, devoid of party differences, we must be able as a country to identify areas of comparative advantages. For instance, I can talk about in Borno, say for example, in Borno, all the beans you need in this country can be produced. All the wheat you want can be produced from Borno Yobe Axis. Adamawa, all the rice that will feed this country can be produced from Adamawa. Because I can tell you that every month in harvesting season, about 300 trailer loads of rice move out of Adamawa, all parts of the country, milling mills everywhere. Little livestock. I tell you, from Mobi alone, the central headquarters from where I come, every week, nothing less than 130 trailer loads of livestock move out of Mobi every week. So these things, states should be able to develop and concentrate on areas of comparative advantage.
Okay. Maybe I didn't put that question.
Okay, right.
Yeah. Policy, everybody agreed that fuel subsidy should be.
Yeah.
But I asked, the question was, how do we take out corruption? Because everyone goes in there, and you see every politician who's gone into office living in opulence, and the people who elected them are wondering, how do we feed? Now they are handing out palliatives, right? Distributing. different state governments are distributing food palliatives. But those in leadership are living in opulence. For instance, a House of Reps member was reported in the media as handing out shoe-shining kits to youth in the community. That what they need, how is he himself living to show them that he's also suffering the impact of the removal of fuel subsidy?
Yeah. Okay. My take on that will be this. We must reorient and go back to the basic things that sustain us as a country, morality and values. And here, believe me, the solution will be the God factor, what I call the God factor. You must bear in mind that any position of leadership you get in politics is one that, I mean, at least I know that two of the main religions, Christianity and Islam, it's a test from God. And you know whether you agree or not. For me, I censure myself and say, look, this trust that God has given me, I will be accountable in the hereafter. This is why a person like me lives with eternity in every day of my life. And that is why all the mandates I received right from the days I went to the Constitutional Conference, went to the House of Representatives, Deputy Governor, and Governor, I tried to live by that ethos. Namely, I didn't need any third party to check what I do. I censor myself, but I believe that God Almighty who created us is all-knowing. And it will be better for me in the hereafter if I live by that dictate. If most Nigerians and our religions, that is what our religions require of us, then people will begin to fall in line and do the needful.
Is it true that you will not be popular in the party or in governance if you don't, quote unquote, just share money to the people?
Just sincerely, I saw this live because, like I told you a while ago, they told the reports I got, said, well, you are the best if in terms of knowledge, experience, but hey, I mean, we're sorry. We will not take your money because we expect more. That is the mindset, you know. And I'll tell you what, I also tried to contest as a governorship candidate after I left office on the platform of the PDP. Because I didn't have money to do what was expected, I couldn't go anywhere. It has nothing to do with character, it has nothing to do with integrity. So the issue of money will continue to be a recurrent decimal in our money politics until we all agree to do the needful, to be guided, and know that at the end of your journey here on earth, someday you go 6 feet down and you'll be answerable when you cross there, or you are this here on earth. That for me is what I fear most in my life. How will I meet my Creator? Will He say, welcome home, that you've done well? For me, that's my solution to the problem of money politics.
Is it that the people, the politicians as they are, or the people who are in leadership positions, are not thinking these values? They are not thinking that they have to account to someone at the end of it. I'm seeing that almost all of them, the two major religions you talked about, they are all part of either they are Muslims or they are Christians.
Yes.
Is this thinking not there for them when they go? Is it that when you get into office, there's something that blocks your thinking in that direction?
I don't know. I can only talk from my personal experience, unfortunately. I tell you what, when we were campaigning in those days, my boss, Admiral Nyako, and myself would go around the state right at midnight. And people will wait patiently for you by the roadside, right till wee hours of the day. And then when I got into office, the security around me, this time, when we want to go past the crowd, they'll be blaring. And I tell you, go to hell, don't What are you blaring and scaring people of? Don't forget that not too long ago we were here, these people were lined up waiting for us way into the midnight. You want to now tell me because we're in office, we should just simply treat them as if they are no longer human beings? So that was how I dealt with the issue personally. I told my staff, my security, no siren anywhere I go. No siren. And I don't want a convoy. I never had a convoy of probably more than 4 vehicles. What are you showing off? If the American president, people who hold the shot in the world, they are mindful of these things. Who are we? You know, try to live by example. And this is why today one can drive around, you have nothing to think about, that you have hurt somebody's feelings because of your style, you know.
There's this impression that people have about political office holders, politicians largely, that during the campaigns, they will come to your constituency. They will do all they can to get your vote. But at the end of the day, when they get into office, they shut them off. They don't even pick up any messages or responses, pick up your calls, or in fact, you don't even get the news of what the real situation is in town because you're surrounded by people who won't give you the real scenario. Did you experience that kind of narrative? Is it true at all in any way?
Now, in my case, I deliberately did this. Now, for instance, my handset, I kept it to myself. I receive calls from anywhere, but I will not answer them instanter. I normally wait till later when I retire home. I go through them one by one, whether your name is in my contact list or not. I try to reach you. You can ask, believe me, what I say here, you can verify from Adamawa State. I receive calls up to this moment from people that I don't know. I answer them. Even when I was in office, surprisingly, there are people who will phone and insult you. And typically, in houses, they will say, I'll say, Allah you know, just please bear with me. Because they will ask you for things you cannot deliver. You don't, I mean, it's either demand for money or something or that you don't really have, you know. But a large majority of them realize that it is always good when you have a channel of communication with them, when they phone, you try to answer. Those that you cannot answer personally, you delegate your PA to answer them. And that is how I personally conducted myself. I cannot speak for others, but it is really unfortunate. I can tell you, since I left office, I have not tried to phone my colleagues in government because I know there is only one that I will not mention his name here that has picked my call. I didn't phone because I wanted anything, but just to say, how are you doing? And I guess maybe because they are busy or some other thing, or sometimes they change their phones every now and then. I understand the enormity of the work on them. People must also give them that benefit of that. But governors require that you create, when you are in this office, don't cut off from those who brought you there. There are times, personally, I will ride my vehicle at night with one or two of my aides. We go into the nooks and crannies and surprise people. They wonder, it's not Ngilari. And, you know, because you need to get a feedback on how people really are thinking about you and your government. You know?
Different governors, even former governors too, have had their battles with their civil service.
Yeah.
So that they can ensure that, because that will be the engine of governance. Did you experience it? How would you, in fact, many of them always talk about their experience, how there's corruption, how they need to ensure that that is history. How would you suggest we address corruption in civil service?
Honestly, if I can tell you, there is a caste method to deal with corruption. I wouldn't be able to answer it, but here are some of the things I would suggest. Perhaps if you create the institution of ombudsman, in offices, in your office, where people can reach you right or through phone-in. No, we try to do that. Create one Saturday in the month where people from everywhere in the state can phone in and complain to you. You'll be able to pick the trends of what is happening within the civil service. Because you there wouldn't know what is happening down there. So you must find a way to reach out to hear what people are thinking. And you should also be able to take into confidence your security men that are working with you, like the SSS. Because every morning the SSS will place at your table various issues generated in the polity the previous day, and ask them, please give me an honest assessment. I've noticed that there are leaders who wouldn't want you to tell them the bad side of what is happening. And I think that's not a good thing. Anybody who truly loves his leader to be able to tell him as it is. You should have friends that you grew up with who should be able to walk right into your bedroom and knock and tell you, look, this is what is happening out there. Are you aware? They are your best friends. And where you have an explanation to offer, you offer. But a situation where you are so cocooned, you cannot relate to the people. This is what translates when elections come, when you want a second term. You always find it difficult. You go by rigging, by corrupting the system. Because you are cut off yourself from the system.
All right, let's bring in our colleagues in Lagos.
All right, thank you, Chamberlain. Good morning, Mr. Ngilari from Lagos. Well, I'd like to delve into a bit of politics. And pardon me, this seems like putting you a bit on the spot. But I'm also referring to that interview that you granted recently. You can confirm it or refute it. You were quoted as saying, when asked if you had 1 billion naira, you said, if I see 1 billion naira now, I'll faint. But you also say that, in fact, the good thing is that the greatest difficulty for a person who tries to be honest and righteous is that you gather so many enemies. Till tomorrow, I say it boldly, without fear or favor. If you take the proceedings of the courts that arraigned me on a 5-count charge, there is not one of the 5 count that said I took 1 naira or diverted 1 naira. So it would seem like you were affirming your innocence following that conviction while you were governor. What are the lessons that you'd like to share from that experience? And also, what's your relationship like with your colleagues at the time, the current governor of Adamawa State, former Governor Jibrila Bindo, and former Governor Murtala Nyako? What's your relationship with them like now, after all these years?
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for asking this question. Let me start first with the issue of the fainting saga that I said, if I saw 1 billion naira. I think people took it too literal. By this I mean, you see, I was interviewed in a studio like this, live. It was the ambience of the room itself, makes you to crack a joke, and I didn't mean to say, certainly if you brought 1 billion, how can I, with the state of health that I have, very good, thanks to God, I say I will collapse because I have seen 1 billion. I mean, it was a joke. But put that aside, I truly mean that, and this can be verified, my accounts can be checked 20 years back. There was no time I ever had a credit balance of 1 billion naira in my account. I never had. That is not to say that I didn't have opportunities that I would have made that kind of money when I was governor. But that's not the path just for myself. And mark you, I'm a legal practitioner. I've been practicing law for a considerable time. You know, I was called to the bar in 1978. I practiced. I met the likes of Chirotimi Williams, met the likes of Chike Ofodile, and I still are in touch with doings of the profession. One takeoff that I can always say I get from these people is that in the legal profession, build character and integrity. And that was what helped me. 10 years post-call, I was asked to go to the bench in both Maiduguri and Adamawa, my state. I just thanked them. I said, no, I'm not cut for that. And eventually I veered off into politics. And my wife of blessed memory, because of the way we developed ourselves, even became the Attorney General of Borno State, if I may tell you. With the very first lady, I believe, in the whole of northern Nigeria to become an Attorney General. We really were guided spiritually by what the Holy Books told us, and these are the values we imparted on our children. Of course, also, the fact that I say I've never had a balance of a billion, one thing I learned from the likes of Chiko Ofodile is that in practice, when you get 10 naira or 9 naira, share it into 3, invest 3 naira, spend 3 naira on your family, and if you are in politics, spend 3 naira. I had, over the years, a very little bit to fall back on, and I hope, so I'm not complaining. I thank God for where I have come from and where I am now, and I'm not too comfortable. I never prayed to be a millionaire, but I'm comfortable.
Well, Mr. Ngilari,
now to my successor.
Okay.
My Bindo, my junior brother Bindo. It was under his government, unfortunately, that all these things happened. I've forgiven those who had hand in it, in my conviction. Unfortunately, some of them have gone, younger than me, have gone to the other side before me. And there are so many things I cannot say here because I am trying to build up my autobiographies for the benefit of younger generation. It was an unfortunate incident because the case itself was predicated on so-called breach of procurement law of Adamawa State. I maintain, I have the judgment right before me here, the Court of Appeal judgment. At the end of that proceeding, the judge said, this appeal, unmistakable that the appeal is a massive success. It's here. Right here.
Just a quick one, Mr. Ngilari, if you don't mind reporting in. My apologies if you can hear me, because we are running completely out of time. And there is a question my colleague asked you in Nyota the other time about corruption. And you have stated your own cleanness and everything like that. If you can do this in about 60 to 90 seconds, it will be great. Talking about corruption, many people believe that some governors sometimes divert public funds for private use, for public, into their pockets and all of that. Do you think these things really do happen? Is it true? If it is, what is it that makes it happen? Is it because our systems, our processes are porous and consequently give the governors power to put their hands in the till?
Well, let me say this. When you are a governor, you are some kind of demigod, don't forget. All the local governments are under you. Everybody is at your beck and call. Is it the accountant general or the commissioner of finance or anybody that you will say, I want this done, that he will not do? If you want memos generated for anything, they will do it because they want to be where they are. And so it will not be difficult. But you see, that is why the way to deal with, one of the ways to deal with corruption is to investigate and deal with it. There are people, I have it recorded. I don't want to mention names again, but there are people who have very serious, grievous allegations of corruption, who are either former governors or whatever, and other people, public officers, who are walking the streets. So when everybody can do that, what do you expect others who come after them? It's only the person who fears God, who knows that at the end of this journey in this life, you will transit the other side. That is why for me, virtually every day, I drive myself and pass the Gudu Cemetery, where I see people who, if power and money can give them whatever they need in this world, they would have been alive. But they are down there 6 feet. I hope I've answered your question.
Okay, all right. I think we can wrap up at this point in time. We do thank you for coming on, Bala Ngilari, former governor of Adamawa State. Thank you for coming on. And are you planning to perhaps try to see if you can contest again sometime in the future?
Thank you, Chairman, for this question. As I am, honestly, I have no desire to go into competitive politics contesting again.
All right.
Others should grow.
Okay.
You must grow and let others grow.
All right. Thank you for coming on, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you.